Hey, so today we will talk about what you do when your LLM's knowledge is out of date. So this is a thing that happens quite often, and let me give you a quick example of that here. So if we switch to the coding screen and create a new file, just call that test.rs. If I go here and I ask it, could you implement a basic counter where you show how to use the equivalent of use effect from React, but in Rust using U. So what I'm asking it here is to try to use effect in U, which is a Rust framework that you use for making web applications, similar to how you do it in React.js. And so when we do that, we'll see it does all of this, but then it uses this function use effect with depths. This is outdated. It doesn't exist anymore in the documentation. So if we have a brief look at the documentation, the actual real name we need to use is use effect. So it has use effect and use effect with, but it does not have use effect with depths. And so this is a huge problem because it means that when you are making your code, it'll produce huge chunks of incorrect code if you use your LLM for U development. So the real question is here, how can we address this? How can we fix it such that it produces the right kind of content for us? And so to address this, I'm going to start a new file here, and I'm just going to ask it, could you write down everything you believe about you, and in particular use effect. Right, and so what we do here is we get it to write down its beliefs about you and how use effects work. And we see here it's written down what it actually believes is the case. And it writes down a whole bunch of different things which simply aren't true, like use effects with depths. This is from a previous version, and this is not how it should be done. But we're going to accept this, and then we're going to make a new context here. We start out by making a section called beliefs. Then we'll make another section down here called the truth. Okay, and we're just deleting the thing we had. We go back to our documentation. We copy the URL and just do fetch. So what this will do is it fetches the URL we just had and gets it into the context. And we'll also take the two subpages here and get those ones into the context. So we fetch these ones, and let's take the other one as well. Right, and so you'll see here, my context has already grown quite a lot to 4.5K tokens, which means that the overall context, just to get this little tiny aspect of your development right, is going to be quite big. So what we're going to ask it now is, could you write down, right, so considering the truth and your previous beliefs, we'll just take the sections, add them in here so it's very clear what we're talking about. Could you make a list of things you used to believe, but which are not true? Be careful to write out the correct, let's see how to formulate this. Be sure to write out the correct be careful to make all aspects of the truth clear in your description, right? And so basically what we're asking the LLM to do here is to work out what is all the places in which it's wrong, and now create a list of that so we know exactly what it is we need to correct. And so you'll see here it identifies that it incorrectly used to believe that it was called useEffects with depths, and this was exactly what we saw over here where we discussed this function we have here is actually incorrect. So it correctly identifies that as something that needs correcting, and the correct signature looks like this, and it has a bunch of other things which I will not go into depth with, where it had wrong beliefs about how this function actually worked. Okay, so we copy this into our context. We remove actually let's create a new context instead and just add this in here. And we are making a new file now. So based on your corrected misunderstandings, could you formulate a systems prompt that will make sure that a LLM will correctly implement actually let's change this. Will correctly will use the U library correctly. And so the idea here is to now we have the corrected context. We know exactly where did it go wrong. And so the idea here is to take this knowledge we have and make that into a systems prompt that we can put into the context and use going forward. Okay, and so it has done that, and it basically starts out by saying, okay, this is the use, these are the guidelines, and effect hooks accuracy, right? Okay, and it explains the basics of it and gives a few examples. Cool. So let's see how this works. So this would be our corrected system prompt, and we now just paste this into our context. And remember, this was our first attempt at making a U component. Let's split the view here, make a new file, and then just do test2.rs. Then just run the same prompt we ran to begin with and see what happens. Okay, so here you go, right. We have now created a system prompt that corrects the behavior of the LLM, right? Initially, it would always use useEffects with, but now it uses useEffects. It basically makes sure that it does that on a consistent basis, so it doesn't fall back to the useEffect with. Moreover, we have only added 358 tokens to do this, whereas if we would include all of the documentation, we would be on some 4,500 tokens, right? But in our case here, we are only using 358 tokens. This means that this is a super efficient way of making sure that you correct the behavior of the code editor that you're sitting and working with, And so by creating these small patches to your LLM, you can make it work much more efficient when you're sitting and coding. I hope this was really useful for you. It's a technique I really love using, and if you would like more tips on how to do this, subscribe to the channel, and I will be producing more. See you in the next video.